Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading into some really interesting territory. We're looking at Attack on Titan.
Yeah, specifically how its story might connect really deeply with Norse mythology.
Exactly. We've seen some material suggesting it's, way more than just using a few names.
Right. This isn't just about finding little nods here and there.
Yeah.
Our mission really for this deep dive is to look closely at these parallels.
To see how much of Attack on Titan the Titans, the world itself, might actually stem from, well, Viking legends.
It's a really captivating idea, isn't it? Could add a whole new layer to how you understand the show.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The most obvious connection point, Ymir.
Ymir, yeah. You have Ymir Fritz in AOT, the source of all Titans.
And the material we're looking at points straight to the Norse Ymir, the very first frost giant, a primordial being.
It feels pretty significant, right? More than just chance.
It really does. And when you dig a bit, their roles are, well, remarkably similar as these foundational figures.
Norse Ymir sort of birthed from primal ice, the start of everything in their myths.
And AOT's Ymir, she gets her power from that strange tree, which itself is loaded with cosmic symbolism.
It's that theme, isn't it? Creation coming from this single, often unusual source, like a recurring pattern in mythology.
But it's tragic, too. Both Ymirs end up as, basically, tools exploited.
Definitely. Norse Ymir is killed, his body used by Odin and his brothers to make the world.
While Ymir Fritz is just used by King Fritz, manipulated to build his empire, ruthlessly.
It's such a dark parallel, how these original powerful beings get used up for someone else's ambition.
Does it maybe say something about how power tends to instrumentalize things, even
Often.
foundational forces?
That's a really good point. And it leads to this intriguing question the sources bring up.
Which is?
Could King Fritz be seen as a kind of Odin figure?
Ah, okay. Both as these dominant rulers, willing to exploit powerful beings for their own ends.
Exactly. It puts a spotlight on leadership and, the ethics involved when you have that kind of power. Where are the lines?
Okay, this is where it gets even more complex. Let's talk about the paths in Attack on Titan.
Right. The idea here, from the material, is that this whole network connecting the subjects of Ymir. It looks a lot like Yggdrasil.
The Norse world tree. For anyone maybe less familiar, that's the huge cosmic tree connecting all the 9 realms in their mythology.
So what are the parallels that make this link seem, well, likely?
The visual aspect is a big one, apparently. The paths are shown as these endless, branching things, like pathways.
Very much like how Yggdrasil is described, right? With roots and branches stretching everywhere through the whole cosmos.
And functionally, too. The paths link all the Eldians, the subjects of Ymir.
Just like Yggdrasil connects all the different realms and beings in the Norse universe, it suggests a similar idea underneath, like a unifying cosmic framework.
What about the coordinate, that central point in the paths where the founder has control?
Well, the source suggests a possible parallel there with the Well of Fate, or the Norns are. They're fate weavers in Norse myth at Yggdrasil's base. Exactly. So the idea is maybe the founder, operating from the coordinate, has a similar kind of influence over destiny.
Huh. Like a commentary on power and maybe the illusion of controlling fate.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And building on that, the source asks something even more speculative.
Go on.
Could Eren's actions, especially later on getting more chaotic, destructive, be seen as like the serpent Nidhogg?
Nidhogg, the one that chews on Yggdrasil's roots in the myths, threatening the whole structure.
Precisely. It offers a lens to view Eren not just as, hero turned villain, but maybe as this fundamental disrupting force within that whole path system.
That's quite an interpretation. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the Titans themselves.
The giants.
Yeah.
Central to the whole conflict, obviously.
And the material suggests they have a lot in common with the Jötnar, the giants from Norse mythology, beyond just being big.
Yeah. It's not just the size, it's also the dynamic. Think about the constant conflict in Norse myth between the gods, the Aesir, and the giants.
Right, which mirrors the endless struggle between humans and Titans in AOT.
And, Norse mythology has different kinds of giants. Some are like raw forces of nature, destructive.
Like the pure Titans, the mindless ones driven by instinct, causing chaos.
Exactly like those.
Yeah.
Makes you think, maybe these ancient myths were grappling with a primal fear of things you just can't control. Huge, powerful forces.
And the source makes a really stark comparison between Ragnarok.
The final world-ending battle in Norse myth leads to destruction, but also rebirth.
And the rumbling in Attack on Titan.
Yeah, the unleashing of all those colossal titans. World-ending potential right there. Both feel like these huge apocalyptic cycles.
Is the parallel meant to be that direct, though?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it leads to another interesting point from the source.
Which is?
Could the rumbling basically be AOT's Ragnarok?
Huh. And if it is?
Then maybe some characters are like the gods who survive Ragnarok and help rebuild. The source mentions Armin specifically.
Armin. As who?
Potentially like Vidar, one of the gods who makes it through the final battle and helps create the new world.
Wow. Okay, thinking about these cycles of destruction and renewal, that's a powerful theme.
Across cultures, yeah. It seems to resonate deeply.
So all of this, I mean, it leads to the big question. Did Isayama, the creator, do this on purpose? Are these intentional connections?
Or just really striking coincidences.
The material we looked at definitely leans into the intentional argument. What's the evidence?
Well, first off, the world tree imagery shows up really early, like chapter 1 early, in Ymir's origin.
Okay, that's significant. Suggests it was baked in from the start, not added later.
Right. Seems less likely to be random if it's there from the very beginning.
And the names, too. We talked about Ymir, but Historia, that name has links to Norse sagas, apparently.
Yeah, while you have Japanese names like Mikasa, you also have these others that seem to fit the Norse theme.
Even the potential Fritz Odin link we discussed earlier adds to that feeling of maybe deliberate choice.
It contributes, yeah. And then there are mentions in the source of interviews.
With Isayama.
Reportedly, yeah, where he apparently said he studied mythology for symbolic inspiration when creating the story.
Well, that seems pretty direct. If he said he looked at myths for symbols.
It strongly suggests it wasn't accidental, that there was a conscious effort to weave these things in, a deliberate layering.
Okay, so if we lean towards intentionality, the source raises a really thoughtful question about Eren.
Ah, yes.
Uh-huh.
About his fate.
Given these possible deep roots in Norse myth, was Eren's tragic path always kind of set? Like Loki's in Norse mythology.
Loki's role in Ragnarok, his destiny, it's largely foretold, unavoidable in the myths.
So could that connection explain why the ending of AOT felt, for some people anyway, almost inevitable?
It's a compelling thought, right?
Yeah.
How much creators might draw on these ancient story structures to explore themes like fate versus free will.
So wrapping this up, we've definitely uncovered some really fascinating parallels between AOT and Norse myths.
Yeah, not just names. We're talking cosmology, the paths in Yggdrasil, the beings, titans in Jötnar, even these huge world-shaking events, the rumbling and Ragnarok.
And we keep circling back to that core question, how much of this is deep, intentional inspiration?
Versus an amazing set of coincidences. The evidence seems to point towards intention, doesn't it?
That does seem that way.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on.
Okay.
If we accept these potential mythological roots, these echoes of Norse stories about fate, about sacrifice, the whole cycle of destruction and rebirth, could understanding that actually deepen how you interpret Attack on Titan?
Could it enrich your appreciation for its story, for its power?
Exactly. It's worth thinking about how these ancient myths might still be vibrating within this really powerful modern story.